Welcome to FitBody Lifestyle, the show where we dive deep into the world of fitness, health, business, relationships, and the art of living a balanced life. I'm Jami.
And I'm Greg, and we're here to give you the benefit of our experiences in the fitness and bodybuilding industry, the corporate world, running a business, personal development, and building healthy relationships.
Whether you're sweating it out in the gym, hustling in your business, or seeking balance in your everyday life, you're in the right place.
So lace up those sneakers and grab that water bottle, and let's get ready to transform our minds, our bodies, and our lives. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of FitBody Lifestyle. We are so happy to have Miss Angela Rutherford, a.k.a. Little Kanahua. You forgot that nickname, didn't you?
No, it's on my jacket. I wear my FitBody Fusion jacket all the time. It says Little Can.
And we are excited to get into another topic today, which I think you have a lot of experience in, which is integrating fitness into a busy lifestyle and how we can accomplish that. Before we dive into that topic, let's get your check-in word for this conversation.
Check-in word is going to be excited.
All right. That's a great way to start, because I'm excited.
Yeah.
So Angela, start with telling give a little bit of the resume for you. Just give our listeners and viewers a little bit of understanding of who Little Kanahua really is.
And you're going to have to explain that.
Okay.
That nickname.
I'll explain that later.
I am Angela Rutherford, and I've been coaching for FitBody for 10 years and been under Jami's guidance for 11.
We're
11.
We're together. This is it.
We are
We're going
bonded.
the distance.
We're stuck. I'm a mom of two toddlers. My daughter's 4. My son is 2. And I'm married to my high school sweetheart.
And you're an IFBB pro.
I'm an IFBB pro. What else? I don't know.
I think that kind of covers it. I also think that it's important to note that you've done multiple divisions. You've done figure, You've done wellness, you've done bikini, and gone back and forth between all of those. So,
huge amount of experience as an athlete and a coach.
Yeah, finding where I fit best.
Are you going to explain the nickname before we move on? I'm sure our listeners will be very curious.
I was going to leave that as a little teaser at the end and maybe bring it out. That
Don't
way
forget.
everybody has to listen. Isn't that the YouTube formula or the podcast formula or something?
They got to do a teaser.
Give them a cliffhanger and then fill it in at the end. So if y'all wait till the end of this episode, I'll tell you what Little Kanahua is. Okay, go ahead. Jump into this episode.
So I know
I'm a marketing genius.
Oh yes, I know. One of the things that people struggle with, including myself, is how do we get all the things done in the day? How do we, make our fitness goals a priority when life is pulling us in so many different directions? And I know, with you being a mom, a business owner, an athlete, you deal with this yourself, and of course helping so many of your clients with how do they make this work. And I love listening to you talking to your clients and really kind of digging in to figure out what's going to help them the most. So let's just start out by talking a little bit about how do you prioritize fitness in your life, and how do you help others then start to bring that into their lives as well?
Yeah, I think that needs to come from an understanding of what living this lifestyle and fitness is going to do for you as a person, and just prioritizing you, above everything else. It's just going to make you better at everything you do. And I think as a mom, I'm beginning to understand, especially as my kids get older, we have less and less time, in the day. There's just more responsibilities, more things to do. And especially, it's myself, as an entrepreneur and, athlete and mother and wife, having that balance, it's hard to find, and it's individualized.
And it's ever changing. I mean,
it's always changing.
I remember when your daughter Ember was starting school, and
that was an adjustment. It was, I had to find a new routine because what I had been doing was not going to work anymore. It was jeopardizing my sleep. I was still trying to get up at 5, in the morning to do my workouts, and 5 a.m. is cool. 4 a.m. is not cool. I cannot function. I tried, and my body started to kind of, push back a little bit, and that's when some of my injuries were coming coming out, and it was all geared towards lack of sleep. So that's a huge priority for myself, and one of those hard ones that I don't let suffer for too long.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because when we talk about integrating fitness into your lifestyle, that doesn't just mean exercise and or dieting. You brought up a huge topic, which is recovery and sleep. Because if you're not getting enough sleep, then you're going to hurt yourself. Or
recovery is the bread and butter to all of this. If you're not recovering between training, you're not growing.
It's useless at that point.
It's useless at that point. You're just causing more harm than good and stressing your body out. So it's a fine balance, with everything that you do, and it's constantly evolving and changing as your life changes and evolves.
Well, and I one thing that you're reminding me of, and we talk this a lot, and so I'm not going to apologize for this being repetitive, because what we have found is that you need to be repetitive in this world, because people's attention span. So we talk about it's bodybuilding, not body built.
Yeah.
It's balancing, not balance. That ing really adds an active sense to that word, and that it's always occurring. And so you are dealing with these challenges on a daily basis, disruptions. In the corporate world, we used to call it disruptors or disruptions. What event is going to disrupt the process flow or your operational flow? And as an entrepreneur and also as a mother, I think disruptions are kind of part of your skill set.
Yeah, it's just got to learn to pivot. And speaking of like when Ember started school and having to navigate a whole entire new routine, it really disrupted like my time in the day, because we commute about an hour to her school every morning.
Wow.
And after, and it's the choice that we're making, and I have to learn to adapt, with that. So getting up in the morning to train was not going to be an option anymore. I'm going to have to do it after I drop her off, which is interrupting when I would do my check-ins, when I would do my calls with my clients, when I would be in my work day, and pushing my time back. And it's like having to adjust that it was a hard adjustment. It was, because I value my time that I have with my kids. And, I don't want to be working when they're home after all day. And I know that that's a big struggle for a lot of parents themselves, and it comes down to setting boundaries. Like, what can I give up so that I'm still doing this for myself? Not necessarily give up. What can I, what's a priority for me right now? And this might not be the same priority in a few months, but this is what it is right now. And just pivoting and navigating and figuring out like what you're willing to adjust.
Well, and I think about that a lot. Actually, you always inspire these great thoughts. So I think what you're describing is, okay, well, I have priorities, but those priorities fall within different categories. So there's a fitness priority, there's a family priority, there's a marriage priority, there's a rest and recover priority, which may fall into the fitness thing. But what you do, those priorities are going to shift day to day, depending on what's happening. And God, and I want to go back. Do you commute an hour each way?
It's about 40 minutes.
Wow. So that's 80 minutes, 160 minutes a day, almost more than 2 hours, two and a half hours a day that you're doing. So
and that you didn't have to do before.
That's right.
So that's time that you lost.
And then I have a 2 hour block off where I'm for my training too. I block off 2 hours every single day in the middle of my day, and I did this prior to having to do this commute as my backup in case I only got like with my kids sleeping and interrupting me. If I'm not getting close to 6 hours, I'm like, I probably shouldn't work out early in the morning. I'm going to push it back. So I would always have that window, but actually having to use that window, I'm losing a good 4 hours out of my day when I could be working.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part, finding that balance between the workflow, time for education, and because that's a big part of what I'm drawn to is, with us is I love these calls that we are starting to do, and it's always a learning opportunity. And I might be working some while I'm listening, but I'm still like,
we've seen you on the treadmill.
I'm
We've seen you do it. We've seen you
That's another
we've
thing.
Seen you in food prep. Yeah.
I'm walking on the treadmill for at least an hour with my iPad doing check-ins almost every single day to get my steps in. And it's you got to figure out a way to make it happen. And it's it's not ideal to be working on my iPad because I can only do so much. But if I don't have to make any changes or adjustments to any, training programs, it's relatively easy. And I just figure it out.
Well, and I think that this really nails down exactly what we're talking about is being willing to be flexible, being willing to take a look at how can you move things around,
Yeah.
how might you combine certain tasks. I mean, now they have the walkable desks, or at least the standable desks, or they actually now have bike desks, so people just want to get movement in. I mean, there's a lot of solutions. I was joking around with you this morning that yesterday I was eating and drying my hair and dictating at the same time.
Yes.
So finding ways to multitask. I know though that we also talked about like when you had talked about with clients that want to do so many things where they're just spreading themselves so thin. And at a point you've got to have that conversation with them, and what does that conversation look like? And what is your advice to people when they start realizing that they're overfilling their schedules, their plate is just...
Yeah. I mean, it just brings up a lot of anxiety, and they're sleep deprived, and it comes down to setting those boundaries. And it's uncomfortable setting those boundaries a lot of times because you're setting them with other people, other relationships that you have, whether it be your boss, or turning down friends that want to go out and do X when you need to be doing Y, or things with your kids. Like, I want to be the mom that says yes to as many things as I can. And, at the same time, there's going to be moments where I cannot, because it's going to interrupt my happiness. And it comes down to your happiness. Like,
put your oxygen mask on first.
Yeah. Like, what are you happy right now with what you're doing? And sometimes they'll say yes, but sometimes they'll say, I hate this. What can we do to change that? What are you willing to adjust to fill your happiness cup up? What is going to be the limiting factor for this situation? And, it's okay to say no. You don't have to be a people pleaser and say yes to everything, if it's not going to bring value to your life.
So where can you say no? And then another question I always ask people, is there something you can outsource? In some cases, like I've had people tell me, I've got all these things to do in a day. And I'm like, could you bring in somebody to clean once a week or something? Is there something that you could, or ask for someone else for help?
Yeah.
Maybe a family member or...
I mean, I've thought about this for my taxes this year, just all the bookkeeping that's involved in it. I'm like, gosh, I spent probably... Really, the only time I have to work on it is on the weekends, because I don't want to interrupt that time I have, with my kids. And it was a good 8 weekends where I was just trying to navigate balancing the weekend time, with I have to get this done time, and I'm probably going to outsource for that this year.
Well, and it speaks back to this. Time is that one resource that doesn't replenish itself.
Right.
So you only have so much time. And I think, so much. I heard you on a call today, and it really inspired us a little bit, because you asked those 3 questions that we always ask, which is, what do you want? Why do you want it? And what are you willing to do to get it?
Yeah.
And when it comes to that, I do think, the outsourcing thing comes in that framework
Absolutely.
of, hey, look, I want more time. Why do you want more time? Well, I want more time so I can spend time with my family or my fitness goals or whatever. And then what are you willing to do to get it? I'm willing to pay somebody to do this or outsource it because of the priority that I'm putting number one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Time is money.
It is. And I also think about the other part of this, which is focusing on what is the problem that we're solving here? Is the problem that we're solving a accounting problem, or is it a time problem?
Yeah.
Right? Is it a money problem that I don't want to spend the money? Or and when you talk about that, if my problem is I'm not getting enough time, well, then maybe spending a little bit of money to invest in will then enhance your life, your mindset, and will produce all these other benefits that you hadn't even thought of until you were willing to take that step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We got to pay for convenience sometimes, if it's going to just take a little bit less off of our plate and, calm our anxiety, bring our happiness, back in our life. Because if we're constantly just go, and we keep saying yes to things and we have more on our plate. I mean, this goes in line with like limiting my roster at a certain point. You know, I'm not going to be able to be as good of a coach if I say yes to every person I want to help. Yes, I want to help them, but I feel like they're going to have as good of an opportunity with this person too, you know, directing them with other coaches that could use a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I've seen, and I'm sure that you've seen this a lot too, that I feel like when people start piling on, for some reason, it just goes into hyperdrive. So like I've seen people, for example, decide they decide they want to compete, and then at the same time they decide they want to take a couple extra courses, and then at the same time they decide to get a new puppy. And then at the same, and it's just like one thing after another, and it's really interesting. I don't know what the psychology is behind that, or what.
I don't get it either.
It's kind of like that wheel gets in motion, and then they just
all the things. I'm like, okay, if we're gonna compete, I'm not doing anything else. Like, there's nothing else on my plate. Nothing.
and that's what's important, right?
And I live
you
this
make
lifestyle
space
all
for
the
it.
time. Yeah, you have to make space for it. And even like, you know, with taking on a new job position, or, you know, going to school and starting competing. I have clients who have done that too. And they know they cannot handle anymore. Like, they feel like their plate is getting a little full. I'm like, okay, well, let's keep it where it's at. You know, you're managing this. We don't, if you wanting to compete, we cannot keep filling the cup.
Well, and the thing that you said before is then it starts cutting into sleep. It starts cutting into recovery.
That's probably the biggest thing. It's like, oh, I'll wake up earlier to do this. I'm like, yeah, you can do that for a little while, but
It works until it doesn't.
it works until it doesn't. And that's something I experienced. I was like, okay, well, we can't, we can't.
Well, the body stops responding too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
And
is
that's
it's
the
like you're-
purpose of the off season.
Right.
You know, and you got to think about what you want and what you're going to do to get it. And for me, I had to figure out a way to cut into that time and restructuring my day. And
So you get an athlete who puts in an application for you, and you go through their consult, and they tell you about a new puppy, a new baby, a new job, or a host of other things that are there, and they say, and I want to compete.
when do they want to compete?
Well,
though?
that's the question that I want you to walk us through, Angela, is how do you then approach that integration of the fitness into that already busy schedule?
Yeah, so if this is something that they've been doing, we can navigate it a little differently. But say it's a first-time person, wanting to compete. They've never done this before, and they have all these life things going on, which are great, but this is going to make all of that much harder. I would start small. What is attainable right now? What can we do right now that's not going to overload your plate? Because taking on a whole new lifestyle and how you're living it's a huge life change. It's a huge commitment, and it takes 6 months to get it down. So practicing, at least, taking that time to just be patient and practicing the things that we're wanting to build upon and learn, so that when we are ready to start prep, we're already doing all the things that we need to do. It's just a matter of fine-tuning, your activity level and, what you're consuming. All the prep work is established. The foundation is there.
So you start small, and this person starts out, and they're doing good on those small achievable goals, and then something happens. An illness in the family, a child who they have to commute 2.5 hours to school. How do you coach people through those life events to, again, keep integrating fitness into that busy lifestyle?
Yeah.
Because those things do happen, don't they?
They do. Yeah. I mean, I've experienced both. So just focusing on the controllables. What can you control in this situation? And, there's only so many hours in the day. What can we adjust? If we have this new commute time, it's taking time out of your day when you could be working out. That's your workout time. So what are we going to do? We might have to have shorter workouts for now. Instead of doing 6 or 7 exercises, we might need to do 3, more frequently, or break down, your workouts into more of a full body split where you're not having to go as much, so just figuring out a way to fit it in with what's going to work within their lifestyle. in their time that they have in their day.
I know there are some coaches out there that I've encountered that are just there's like one way. And I love what you're saying, because there is more than one way. So, and we've seen people, I mean, my gosh, during COVID, people were having to get real creative with how they train, and people still figured it out. And so there are solutions. So I think like what I'm hearing you say is, being solution oriented, figuring out what will work, being realistic with yourself and where you can put things in, because there's nothing worse than that feeling of setting yourself up to fail, creating goals that are not realistic or timelines that are not realistic, and then feeling like a failure when in reality it just wasn't realistic to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, even from like a nutritional standpoint, just, we're so tied to our devices, and for somebody who's not used to constantly having to be on their phone to track their macros, it could be overwhelming for them with all the other life factors that they have going on, at that time. So an example for that, I would even give like, let's not track at all. Let's just be mindful of how much you're consuming and focus on your protein. Like, that's the most important nutrient. If you're getting enough whole food protein, you're not going to overeat, and you're, minimizing the highly palatable processed foods. We were talking about this earlier. Like, they're engineered to be addicting.
Yes, Doritos.
Yeah. Like, they're engineered for you to want to eat that whole bag.
Yes, they are.
If you eat your protein first and you're eating, I'm a big red meat person, so I love red meat. If I'm eating, 4 or 5 ounces of ground bison or ground beef first, I'm not going to overdo the bag of Doritos.
I don't think you eat Doritos.
I don't eat Doritos, but that's an example.
You leave those all for me.
That's just one example.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Unplugging from the devices sometimes helps.
Oh, for sure. I don't think I love that you said that, because I don't think that we even realize sometimes, we'll pick up the phone. I'll do this. Like, I'll pick up the phone to do something, and next thing you know, 10 minutes have gone by, and now I didn't even do whatever I picked up my phone to do, because I got, a notification here, something else there. Now I'm, something popped up that was interesting that I got sucked into.
Yeah.
I mean, how much time would we get back if we just...
I mean, I have like the social media time limit. I think I have it set for an hour. And usually I'm not exceeding that, but I've gotten to the point where I've moved I call it habits in my phone, like all the little social media thing. I moved it to like the next page, so it's not on my first.
Oh, that's smart.
Notification. Like, so when I open my phone, if I have a notification, it's usually a text or a call, and that's all I see. I don't see any other notifications.
That's a good little hack.
I love that.
And that's really helped me like minimize the time that I'm spending. I don't spend a lot, but it's already helped.
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Yeah.
As a mom, I know obviously my kids are adults now. I think back, because being a parent is a full-time job. It's a 24-hour,
There's no breaks.
7-day-a-week job. Like, you don't ever go home and turn off kids.
No, even when you're out of town.
Right, exactly. So I do think it brings with it some unique challenges, and especially most of us that are parents are also working and doing other things. So it's, so I know that, we talked a little bit about like, taking Ember to school. And I think about when my kids were doing sports and I had to go, and I know you're coming up on that too.
We're almost there.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I was spending so many hours in the car, and it just was interesting to be able to figure out how to be resilient and still be able to fit things in, and especially with my fitness goals and work goals too. It's really nice, because I feel like, now most of us can work remotely, which is nice, because, I have my computer with me, and, I'll do some work here or there, when I can. I can't wait for those self-driving cars. So
just take me there and I can work.
Just take me there. I can work the whole time. Although when you got kids in the car, you're not probably going to be doing much. But I got creative even with like getting my movement in. So if the kids were at sports, my daughter would play soccer, and I would do circles around the soccer field to get steps in, or to get some cardio in, or, I would find a gym I could slip away if it was long enough, but it was close to wherever they are. I would just do a little bit of research and see, you know, because there are a lot of chains out there. So I had, you know, Anytime membership, and those were kind of all over the place. So, you know, I do feel like, you know, that layer of complication and in having kids and their ever changing schedules and moods and all the things we deal with. So I'd love to hear you expand upon, you know, how you know, either for yourself and or for your clients, you know, how do you help, you know, people become more resilient when it comes to coming up with solutions? Because, I mean, it could be any day. Like, you think you know exactly how tomorrow's going to happen. And
yeah. I mean, sometimes you have to be okay with just letting the day be and, you know, accepting, like, I wasn't able to get this done. And, you know, having that gray area is okay. Like, you can make it up tomorrow, you know, or, you know, I missed my cardio, but I'm going to make it up the next day or on this day. And it's tricky.
The kids were up all night, so you didn't get to sleep. You talked about that.
Yeah,
so then
like,
you're not, you know, you might skip that workout knowing your body needs that extra rest.
Yeah, I advocate to prioritize rest above anything else, because if you're not resting, you're not growing, you're not recovering, and, you know, most likely your body's going to be more stressed. So,
well, beyond your body, it puts your mind at fog.
Your mind, yeah.
And you're hungrier.
Cravings are higher, you know, so it has this catalyst effect with everything else that you do, you know, and it's going to hinder you to, you know, check all those boxes. And you know, I'm a big box checker, but I'm also a big believer in having the flexibility within your day and acknowledging it's going to be okay if you miss this one workout. It's not going to derail your progress of getting on stage. It's just one workout, just like one meal will not derail your progress. It's that repetition. That's what's going to be the limiting factor. So if that's the case, then we got to figure out a new plan. We have to get on a call, you know, where we get to get on a call, we get to strategize what's going to work within your life right now. And, you know, my job is to help them discover that, you know, so I'll ask the questions and, you know, we'll come up with a plan, and then I'll make the adjustments to their training if that's what we need, or pivot on what we need to do for their nutrition. And, you know, I have a client going to Guam for like 3 weeks, and we're basically prepping. We're getting in a pre-prep phase, and, you know, she's asking all these questions, and I'm loving it because she wants to be prepared, you know, for this trip so that she's not backpedaling any. You know, we've made some great progress so far, and we want to keep going for our summer plans. And, you know, I'm setting her calories at a maintenance. You know, we're going to bump up her food. She's still going to be able to train, so that's not a big deal. And she's wanting to enjoy some, you know, foods that are made there. And I'm like, go for it. Like, we're going to be able to eat a little bit intuitively, you know, focus on your protein. If you can track, great, you know, but don't stress over it. I know there's going to be foods that you're eating that you're not familiar with, and a couple meals out of the week while you're on maintenance is going to be just fine. You know, so just reassuring them, like, you're going to come back and you know, you might be a little heavier due to the different, you know, foods that you're eating and water retention and, you know, lack of sleep, you know, with the time change and the flight, the long sitting and travel. Like, let the inflammation fall off. You're going to be right back where you were before you left.
So, Angela, talk about this a little bit. When you say the check, you're a box checker.
I'm a box checker.
And there's a part of that I love, and there's a part of that I don't. And the part of it that I love is that it sets a schedule, it sets boundaries, it sets priorities for the day, which are great. The part of it that I don't love is that and it really kind of is in that same vein of putting too much on your plate, is that if you're just checking the boxes but you're not present in each of those items that you're checking, then have you really added value to your day? Yes, you've got it done, but it's like, okay, spend 30 minutes with the kids. If you're spending 30 minutes with the kids and you're not present in that time, you check the box, you got it done, but you're not necessarily present and embracing what that was supposed to do for you in terms of prioritization. So I think you're really good at that, actually, about being present, not just having the boxes to check, but about being present in the things that you do. And I don't know whether you even agree with what I'm saying or not. So let's start there. Do you agree with that? And if you do, then how do you make sure you are present in each of those boxes?
I think being present is very important with what you're doing, because if you're not present, you're kind of just on autopilot and you're just doing. You're not absorbing and you're not learning. And I think a great example of this is when I am playing with my kids and they ask me, you know, Mommy, come play with me. And it's always like, okay, let me finish this, or let me do it later. And, you know, taking a moment, I can stop what I'm doing for 15 minutes and give them the time that they need, and I'm going to come back to this. It's going to be just fine. And it's not going to interrupt anything, and it's going to give them the joy that, you know, and the love that they're needing from me right then. And it brings that joy back to me. I think I've lost track with what I was saying.
I think you addressed it perfectly.
Okay, yeah.
Like that being like that, you do agree that being present. So there's like that combination of checking the boxes and getting the things done.
It's still going to be there for me to do, and it's going to be fine, even if I have to do it in the morning. Like there's instances where, you know, I have my cutoff time for check-ins. You know, instead of working out, I might spend an hour earlier in the morning to bust those out before I have to take Ember to school and do all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So it's still going to be there. You know, you have to be okay with the interruptions, I guess, and, you know, be present.
Yeah. Well, if you're the overriding prioritization there is to be present in whatever boxes that you have.
Whatever it is,
and recognize that I'm not going to stress over a box that I can't accomplish if I know that I've been present in the other 5 or the other 3 or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So having a plan, and then the willingness also to pivot
Yeah.
as needed. And I can completely relate to that, because even though my kids are now grown, it's even, I feel like, more sometimes challenging to get time with them because they're so busy with their own lives and things like that. So if one of them calls me, you know, it might not be the most ideal time for me to talk, and I'm, you know, I will, if at all possible, drop everything and go, okay, I can get back to this in 15 minutes. I'm going to stop and have this conversation. I can't get this time back with my kids. So I do think that, you know, there's that need to be able to have a plan, have a structure to the day, and then still be able to pivot as needed, and then also figure out what the priorities are.
Yeah. I feel like this is really relatable to, you know, tracking your nutrition. And, you know, if you've been doing it as long as I have, like, you can kind of track as you go and you know what you should be eating. And, you know, I could probably get through a full day of eating and be very close to my macros. But when you're new to it, and you're just flying at the seat of your pants and kind of just tracking as you're going, you're going to end up with macro Tetris at the end of the day. And it's going to be very difficult to hit those numbers, especially protein. And you might not have enough fat, and you might have, you know, a few carbs to eat. And it's like, what am I going to eat?
Mm-hmm. Or you might have gone over.
You might have gone over.
If you've gone over, you can't take the seasoning out of the
harder.
pot. Yeah.
Right,
That's even harder. It's done.
Whereas if you pre-plan ahead of time and have a game plan of what you're going to eat, you can always make adjustments as you go. And I think people have a hard time understanding that. Like, it's applied with everything you do. You have a schedule. It can be changed. You know, it's not concrete.
We talk about this all the time, is that the best strategy, the best practice is to log the night before. When you log the night before,
at least one night before.
Yeah, at least one
I
night
was,
before. True,
yeah, I was
fair.
actually getting ready to go there
Go.
because we had talked about, because I'm glad you brought the macros, because you and I had talked about this a little bit about, you know, how when you have a client come to you and they're having a hard time like hitting their numbers or prepping, like, you know, maybe even if that means not getting a workout in. So talk a little bit about that. Like
if you hitting your nutritional targets means you need more time to do that, right? You need to take the time to track. You know, if you're new to this, it might take you 30 minutes to plan a whole day because you're learning how to do it. You're learning what portions of macros are in this particular food. And it might mean you need to take one less training day, to do that. So you're working out 4 days instead of 5. and it's just for right now, but it's going to get us, to the big picture of what we're wanting to accomplish. Once you get the hang of it, it's literally, I can't tell you how many times I get on a call and I help my new athlete plan a full day of eating, and I'm walking them through it. I'm having them do it. We might be on the call for an hour while we do this, but once that is established and that light bulb goes off, it's like, boom, no big deal. They're hitting zeros multiple times a week. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's just being prepared. And that's the thing you're talking about, is making sure that that's already logged. And a lot of times I feel like when people are failing, especially in this particular area, it's they're overcomplicating things. Sometimes just keep it simple, like just repeat a day until you get tired of something, then swap it out.
Yeah.
Because then you can meal prep and do it once or twice a week versus every day you're scattered running around.
Yeah.
What am I going to eat next? Oh no, I don't have anything ready. Oh well, might as well go and get McDonald's.
I have the same proteins for at least 3 of my meals every single day. I can't even, for years. The only ones that are different are going to be my dinner. That's the only one that might be different. And, it's going to be either chicken thighs, some sort of steak, or fish. It's very simple. And even like with coming up here, like I pre-tracked 2 days in my Fitness Pal, and, I'm in my off season. I probably didn't need to do that, but we have goals. And I want to be on as much as I can right now. So, I pre-tracked my food in my Fitness Pal. I prepped it and brought it. And, I don't even have to think about it. I just eat it now.
Well, what it makes me think about too, though, when you say that you have goals, it's not just the fitness goals. You have goals in terms of your business goals. You have goals in terms of the other things you want to do. So by doing what you did and preparing and having everything ready, it freed up your mental space and your time to be able to do all those things you want to do. And I think that's where some people miss the boat, where they don't realize that it's not just affecting the nutritional goals or the fitness goals. When we're kind of leaving things to chance, we're not being as present.
We're not being as present, yeah, because we're thinking about what we need to do. And, it's building that anxiety up and that stress level. And then that's where people are like, I can't do this.
Right. You didn't have to think about it at all this week. You could focus on everything else you were doing because
I wanted to be present this weekend and not have to worry about it. So you got to put a little time to prepare, for that. But it's fine. I spent 30 minutes after dinner prepping my stuff the night before I came here, and it was fine. Jeff was playing with the kids outside and got them ready in their bath, and I was handling my business and getting my food ready. And I think having a good support system at home is a key to that too, because especially if you have a family and you have all these it's like mornings and evenings are probably the most stressful with kids. It's like, you got to race to get dinner. You got to race to get bath.
Get their socks on them.
Get their socks, getting them dressed. Like, Ember she's some kind of way around her clothes.
My daughter was the same way, so I could totally relate.
Like, just put this on.
It's not that hard.
It's not the right outfit, Mom.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Oh, we dealt with that. Yeah, we dealt with that. I as you were talking about this, Angela, the thought I had was, years ago I went through some training, and the theme of the training was everybody's the CEO of something. And you are definitely the CEO of your household, and that's no slight to Jeff. I think Jeff's the CEO of the household too. You're like co-CEOs. But where I'm going with this question is that as the CEO, you're responsible for organization, for strategy, for operations, day-to-day operations, and you are the CEO. And as we talk about this, that metaphor really is applying. And so one of the ways that you've been able to integrate, I think, and this is what I want you to talk about, is the integration of your family into this lifestyle. The lifestyle is that foundation, but you've integrated your family into it and gotten them involved and brought them along instead of looking at them as another task. They're part of the task. So how whether you have kids or not, okay, and you're integrating this fitness lifestyle into your lifestyle, how do you do that?
I wish I could give you a definite answer because it's just something I do. I
think that is the answer though, right? Isn't it?
I guess it can be, but I feel like very broad, it's just,
I was thinking the same thing when he asked the question.
it's just something I do. Like, granted, Jeff, he's very into fitness. Like, he lives the bodybuilding lifestyle, and he's had his own, path to get where he is here today. And but he's been working out since he was, 15 years old. Like, I was signed on to his gym membership, his family gym membership,
Wow.
so he's been working out just as long as I have. So he knows that aspect is very important, to me, and it's just a part of who I am. I'd say nutritionally, that's been more of a work, getting him to jump on board with that. And he still has like his little Cheez-Its and Oreos and ice cream and things like that. But I think getting him on board with Joanna was really what made the switch, because he saw like where his cholesterol was, where his A1C was. And I mean, he was 1 point away from being pre-diabetic, and he looks great. Like, he does not look like he would be in the diabetes
Why
realm.
blood work's so important.
It
We always
is,
talk
yeah,
about
and
knowing
that made
your
the
levels.
switch. That made the switch for him. Like, okay, I'm not going to eat any more ice cream. We're going to do brown rice, and it that really helped him see the value in the lifestyle that we're living, because he wants to be super dad, and be able to do all the things with the kids for as long as he can, and same thing with me. And we're integrating that into our kids, especially with nutrition. Like, they want to eat junk. They want to eat the snacks, and especially Ember, she's on this big snack kick. But it's like, those are sometimes foods. These are foods that you can have in abundance, and it's like whole foods,
Of course,
And, if you're hungry, go get a banana, go get an apple, and, go get, Wyatt will say, do you want a cucumber? Do you want broccoli? He loves raw vegetables. He's my veggie eater. But, having them see how we eat is helping them make those choices for themselves. And yeah, they want the snacks and the yummy stuff too. We do too, but it's something we have a little bit, sometimes, not all the time.
One of the first things you talked about made me think about, because you talked about basically people figuring out why it's important to them in their lives, and kind of going back to that why. I love that why having to do with wanting to have longevity, to be able to be there for your kids. What a cool reasoning behind living a fitness lifestyle. It's not just about getting on stage. It's not just about looking good.
And the aesthetics of it. It's about being able to live the best life you can. You might as well make the best of it, and being a healthy body is going to help you achieve that.
Yeah. Having energy, having, motivation, and then, of course, also setting the example, which is the other thing that you're talking about. And kids are little sponges, and they pay a lot more attention to what we do than what we say. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's so cute when my kids are in the garage and Ember's trying to do her pull-ups on the Smith machine, or, she loves the little, she sees me do the band pull-ups, and so she wants me to set up the band and, on there, and she's just swinging around, but it's like, to her, that's a workout.
Yeah.
So cute. I love it.
Making it fun.
That fun has got to be the core value and the priority for certain, especially when you got kids.
Yeah.
Because as the CEO, you know that those kids are your hardest employees of all.
Yes, they are.
To get to perform. I promised that I would come back around to Little Kanahua.
There we go.
And we would talk about that. This is the story. So Angela is one of our OG coaches. We had a gym in Sacramento for a time. And we were doing, just before we kind of founded FitBody Fusion, we were doing these workouts. Or no, I think it was after we had founded it. Right?
After.
So after we had founded FitBody Fusion,
we would do group workouts. For the exercise, but it was, I think it was more for the
Saturday or Sunday
bonding and the fun.
And it was a lot of fun. Although we were talking the other day about how we were so far forward in doing some of the movements that are now like part
exercises.
Although the strength wheel was still I think our favorite thing, and I remember you being the first one on the strength wheel, and
the best one for sure,
and the best one. The strength
telling
wheel.
You, I was a machine at that time.
Pedal yourself with your arms while your feet are on a dolly, and it's kind of holding plank, but also doing
Moving.
push-ups.
Bicycling with your upper body. It's extremely hard.
Yeah. But little Can started, and so... But
I don't think I realized how hard it was.
You made it look so
You
easy
did.
that other
You're
people
like-
would get on and then they couldn't even like make it two turns, and you're like going all the way across the parking
We
lot.
were literally doing this in the back of the parking lot behind the gym, and you're just motoring across there, and everybody thinks, "Oh, that's easy to do. Look at her do it." And no, it
They
wasn't
fall
so
on their
easy.
face.
So, HUA in the military or in the Army in specific, because it's different depending on the branch that you're in. HUA is just that motivational thing that you say when it's kind of a yes, it's kind of an all-encompassing thing, like aloha maybe. But it's like, hey, sir, how you doing today? HUA, it's kind of that thing. And so I had this thing for giving people nicknames, and your nickname came out, the Little Can of HUA, because you were just always so... Powerhouse, but the passion that you exuded in your workout. But it wasn't just passion, it was fun. You always had fun when you were doing those things. And as we've talked about this in the integration of the lifestyle, integration of fitness into the busy lifestyle, I think really maybe we come full circle with that, is the fun has really got to be the dominant thing.
And you got to embrace the challenges that are in front of you from a positive perspective. Yeah, those things are hard, but it's like you got to choose your hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to power through. There's going to be a reward.
Yeah, on the other side of it, even just that sense of accomplishment that
Just internal reward, not necessarily what you see on the outside, just what you feel on the inside. And it's, that sense of accomplishment it's fun.
So, Angela, we are at time. And let's do a little housekeeping, which first is tell everybody how to contact you.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram, _Angela Rutherford _ I have a YouTube channel, which is also, I think it's just Angela Rutherford. And of course, on the FitBody Fusion website, if you want to book a consultation with me, just fill out an application and select me as your coach.
And Angela's traditional spelling, and Rutherford is RUTHERFORD.
Yes.
All right, so _ between the front and the back of that. And what we will ask everybody is, what's your checkout word? You started with excited.
I started with excited. Optimistic.
Ooh, optimistic. That's a great follow-on to excited for sure. And everybody, we're going to ask you the same thing, which is please like, subscribe, comment, and leave a review for us. We value that information so much so that we can bring you the content that you want, not just the content that we think you want. And we will give you the 3 B's to sign off, which is be good to yourself.
be good to each other.
And be safe. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to FitBody Lifestyle. We hope today's episode has left you feeling motivated and equipped to tackle your fitness goals, business challenges, and the daily dance of life. Remember to value progress over perfection. Life's tough enough alone. Find the chosen family around you to help you along the way.
If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite streaming platform. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FitBody Fusion.